Hello and welcome to QETVLive show with your host, Mrs. H. How are you today? Like always, I always promise you a great show. We have in our studio audience, as you can see, Mr. James Butler in the studio. I just want to read some information about Mr. Butler that's pretty amazing right now. And before I do, what I want you to do is go and get someone, tell them you're watching QETVLive show with your host, Miss H, on Vox Wave. So right now, go to your social media pages, call someone, text someone, any way that you communicate, tell them to watch. We're live here in the studio. We have a great show in store for you today. We even have 2 Washington, D.C. residents in the audience today. So again, we got a great show lined up for you today. We have Andrea Fields and Brittany Lowry in the studio. They will be asking, you can wave at them, say hello to the studio audience. They will be asking Mr. Butler a couple of questions and he will be answering. So again, if you know of anyone that lives in the D.C. area, well, live in D.C., because you must be a resident in order to vote on November the 6th. So if you know someone, call them and let them know you are watching QETVLive show with your host, Miss H. Now, what I want to do before Mr. Butler comes on and share his platform and tell you what he plans to do once he wins the new mayor position. Let me just share with you some information that was taken by an independent survey here. The name James Butler will not be on your ballot, so don't look for it. Remember, his name will not be on the ballot. You must write his name in. Yes, you have to write his name in. So you will not see James Butler on. So remember to write it in on November the 6th. For immediate release, his website is www.butlerformayor.com. Let me go down below this. Okay, D.C. Mayor write-in candidate James Butler incumbent Muriel Bowser in the recent polling by 17 points. That's amazing. Today, progressive D.C. mayoral write-in candidate James Butler, yours truly, announces that in recent independent polling, he has a commanding 17-point lead over incumbent Muriel Bowser. 17-point lead. So he's in the leading right now. The independent survey was conducted by politicalhispanic.com. So you can go look this up on politicalhispanic.com. of a random sampling of over 4,998 votes. James Butler, who came in second place in the D.C. Democratic primary on June 19th this year, where he performed better than any other non-incumbent politician in the past 12 years. He has highlighted the need for real affordable housing and rent control. And everyone right now want to hear more about affordable housing and rent control, more community policing, and true education reform. That was all important. Butler, who is a progressive Democrat, has run a grassroots People First campaign against Muriel Bowser, who has come under recent fire for her dramatic increase in homicide, as well as her proposal to increase fines for speeding tickets to almost $500. James Butler recently said the people of D.C. deserve better and want better. And I also want to go back to highlight, she also came under fire for cozying up with developers and big businesses, but not so with Mr. Butler. He wants D.C. residents to have a better quality of life. He says that D.C. deserves better. He will be a people's mayor. You hear that? A people's mayor, okay? And a Butler administration will always put you first, put the people first where they belong. As mayor, he will be a mayor for all, but a champion and a fighter for the undeserved. James Butler is available for media inquiry. So if you would like to invite him and talk with him, you contact his office. Go to www.butlerformayor.com. Get a hold of him, and he will give you a call, email you, and let you know how to get in touch with him. Again, for more information, please call his office or go to his website at www.butlerformayor.com. Now, without any further ado, I would like to introduce my friend, my guest today, Mr. James Butler. Welcome, Mr. Butler.
Well, Ms. H, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me.
My
to
pleasure.
all of our viewers and listeners at large, thank you. To our members of the studio audience, I want to thank you, too, for coming. I am so glad to be here to continue to share my message of people first. As you said, Ms. H, early on, viewers, listeners alike, please know that our name will not be on the ballot since we came in second. But that doesn't mean we've given up the fight to run for the Wilson Building. In fact, I am so encouraged by this poll right here that was conducted completely unbeknownst to our campaign. But when I got the news, I will tell you this. There is no question in my mind that it injected new life in our campaign. We've gotten multiple volunteers coming in nearly daily at this point. And that's really what we need 17 days or 27 days out. There's the expression that two things wins elections, and that's money and manpower. And right now, we've got the manpower.
So
right now, we've got the manpower.
You got the manpower. Okay, so if a person want to volunteer and help you out, because it's getting closer and closer to November 6th.
Absolutely.
What can they do?
They can call us directly at 202-560-6854, Miss H.
Okay.
But also, I was being a bit facetious when I repeated we have the manpower, kind of conveying the absence of not having the sufficient funds. So we are working diligently to raise money. We're fighting, I think, as all of you know, that we're fighting against a big political machine.
Yes.
She's been able to raise a lot of money, and she's been able to continuously and effectively run the major city, the nation's capital of America.
Okay, so if someone wants to donate, what should they do?
They can go right on to Butler for Mayor, that's FOR, mayor.com. Hit the yellow donate button right at the top. Literally in 30 seconds, they can have their contribution. We can have it, and you can put us on our road to winning the city.
Is there a certain amount that, that people can donate?
We're making recommended contributions of $100, but per individual, you cannot give over $2,000.
Okay, so it's not over $2,000.
Absolutely.
But if they had over $2,000, could they gift it to another loved one in the family or friend?
Actually, that would be illegal.
Oh, okay.
That's what they call a straw donor. And so I just wanted to say it will be illegal because I wanted to emphasize the point if anyone had that in mind.
And that's
that it
what
could get
sometimes
them.
people, I like to ask the questions that people have in their head but won't ask. And so as you can hear, he's saying because he's running on his campaign because he wants to put you first and he wants to be the example. So again, if you have more than $2,000, he's letting you know he's grateful for the $2,000.
And I am not looking to go to jail anytime
exactly.
soon.
None of us are. Neither am
$2,000 is the cap, definitely. But
okay.
Anyone, I do want to get into a little specifics with regards to that. If you have a spouse, though, husband, wife, and you can give up to a combined total of $4,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but you must have separate bank accounts and prove that the money came from the separate bank accounts.
And that's easy.
And that's
to
easy
do.
to do.
Yeah,
I think in most standards
easy to
today.
do.
Yeah.
And again, we just wanted to get everything out on the table so that things can be done decent and in order. So again, he's looking for your donation and the manpower. So go to his website and help him out, because right now, as we can see, how incredible
this is amazing
for you to have a 17-point lead.
But you know what the strange thing about polls is sometimes they make people overly confident. And that's really what I don't want to
get relaxed.
I was a bit reticent to even send this out because I said, if people think we've got that huge of a margin, they might not come out to vote. Let me tell you this, without any reservation or equivocation, everyone needs to come out and vote. If you do not come out to vote or feel your vote matters, we will lose the election. We will lose the election. So I don't want a single person out there to believe your vote doesn't matter. If you stand in line for Black Panthers or other things, you're going to stand in line for a half an hour and change the world. How about that?
That's true.
Now I'm telling you, stand in line for a half an hour and change the world, and start with your own community.
Well, let me ask you about registering to vote.
Yeah, that's a good question.
How late can they register to vote and their vote still count? Because you know us, sometimes we have a habit of waiting to the last minute.
Right.
So when is that last cutoff date to vote?
So let me say a few things about voting that I think are very, very important. If you are out or if you're in jail waiting a trial, you can vote. You can vote if you have a felony conviction in D.C. You can vote no matter who you are in D.C. There is no reason not to vote. If you're registered to vote prior to Election Day, you do not need to show an ID.
Oh.
So call the Board of Elections right now, and you can Google that. You Google everything else. You know that. Don't make me come at you now. You Google everything else. Google Board of Elections right now. Call the D.C. Board of Elections. There's no waiting, no voicemail. A real human will actually answer the phone and find out if you're registered to vote. You can also get onto their website, and you can Google that as well. Excuse me for not having those, but they're easy to Google.
To find.
The reality is this. You can find out, and D.C. is a no ID voting jurisdiction. So you can walk right in, give them your first and your last name. They'll pair it up with your address, and you can vote.
And what's the age?
If you're 18 years of older, you can vote. And then if you are out in, if you have any of these past things, felony convictions or whatever, don't let anyone tell you that you cannot vote. There's all of this voter suppression that further suppresses marginalized people. If you've done your time to society, you've paid your just due, then why should you get punished once again by not being able to vote? Folks, in D.C., you can vote. And you know what? D.C. is one of the few jurisdictions, surprisingly, that will allow you to register and actually vote on Election Day, Ms. Hightower.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse.
There is no excuse at all.
Okay.
And you know what? One other. I'm going to do you better than that. Now, get ready for this one. Get ready. Are you ready for this one?
Yes, we're ready.
Uber is giving free rides to and from the voting booth on Election Day.
Really?
Download the Uber app right now. Free rides to the election polls there and back on that day. There is no excuse. No excuse at all. Free rides. That's amazing.
That is.
That's absolutely. And this is unprecedented. That all over the country, you will have free rides to and from the election. You could be chilling in the back of a Toyota Camry, still on your cell phone working.
To do is download
they get
the
you
Uber
there.
app.
Absolutely. Most people have it already.
Wow.
But if you don't have it, please download the Uber app. You can work on your way to the polls, go right in, have a nice car, air conditioned on the way back, and voila. You've voted, you've done your civic duty, and would you actually work to change the world?
Amazing. Somebody need to call Lyft so they can get in on it.
Yeah, we'll have them all in it. I don't know if Uber's got an exclusive, but why not?
Yeah.
The more the merrier.
The more the merrier. So they have a ride. They can vote all the way up to November the 6th, even on the day of.
Absolutely.
They don't have to have ID.
Yeah, now, if you vote on the day of, that's the only day you have to have ID.
You have to show ID to prove that you're a resident.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. No excuses.
No excuses, folks.
Okay, then now that we've gotten all the preliminaries out of the way, let's dive right in and tell us more about your platform, Mr. Butler. I just want to start off by asking you, what made you decide to run for mayor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm asked that, Miss H, all over the city. And I'm going to be as brief as I can so it's clear. I'm running because of urgency. I believe now is an urgent time in D.C. history that another 4 years in the direction that we've gone in with this same mayor will mean necessarily that many, many people will be displaced. Because we know that the majority of D.C. can't afford these new apartments, these new condos going up. You get a one-bedroom for $2,000 a month. Even the new millennials coming in the city that have done allegedly well by most standard metrics, they can't afford these places. They've got 3 or 4 roommates in these places. The reality is we're going to become a city just like San Francisco, where it's only a city of rich people. And we need to ask ourselves, do we want that, or do we want our city, the nation's capital of America, to be a symbol and emblematic of the ideals that we share as Americans? A city that's welcoming and has an opportunity for all to thrive there. So I am running simply because of urgency.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was one of the questions that my guests had, and I wanted to start it off by getting them warmed up. And from there, we're going to turn it over to Andrea and Brittany and let them start with the questions that they have on the list and to ask you.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Andrea. I am a community activist for the DMV. So my first question to you would be, if you become mayor, what are your plans of action for stopping the violence?
Thanks for that question, Andrea. And that's a real concern to a lot of people. The reality is this, that we've seen an uptick in violence and we've seen homicides. The D.C. government officials will tell you that homicides are down. The reality is this, homicides are up. They'll tell you that violent crimes are down. Well, violent crimes are homicides. Homicides are violent crimes, no matter how you look at that. So the reality is this, that we need a mayor that's going to focus on that, because we know that these crimes are predominantly occurring in marginalized communities. And because of that, we need a plan in place. The first plan is this. I believe that if we have a city that we know can afford speeding cameras, we also can afford crime cameras in areas of high crime to reduce crime, because the presence of those cameras literally allow police to see things in real time. People may find them a little bit invasive, a little bit intrusive into their personal lives. The reality is this, we have to do something to reduce crime. And when we don't reduce crime or do things that we know will reduce crime in areas that are where predominantly marginalized people live, then we allow gentrification to fester. So to fail to act is to promote gentrification in my mind. And so what I also plan to do and will do is increase community-style policing on the streets. What that means you get to know your neighborhood police officer. They've done it in New York. They did it when, maybe not you, Andrea, but when I was coming up, where police officers would still walk the beat. They'd shake your hand. You'd get to know Officer Joe and Officer Jane. And you get to entrust them as they're like a friend of yours. The reality is this, we now have this veneer of distrust between the community and the police officers. What we need to focus on now is eroding that veneer of distrust. How do we do it? We get police to interact. We bring back officer friendly. We create things where, the officers are coaching YBL and they're coaching youth baseball and those sorts of things. That's what allows it will not only allow us to solve crimes before they happen, because people will let police know when there's gang-related activity or whatever. They'll trust them to do that. But it also will allow us to solve crimes more readily after they occur. There's no reason that a crime should happen in Logan Circle and be resolved in 2 days, and a homicide can happen east of the river, and it takes weeks or it's never resolved. That's a huge disparity, and that's a disparity that deals solely with our attention to policing and the apparatus that we use to increase our public safety.
Before you go to your next question, I want to add to that to ask you, I know they have something in place now. I was looking at it on the DC website called the PSA, the Police Service Area, where supposedly they do have policing in certain community areas.
Exactly.
And the main focus was so that those police officers can get to know their community. Right. How is that working now, the PSA? You always ask the most astute questions, and they just come out of nowhere. And I'm like, this is a little zinger. I like that, because that's actually a very astute question. The PSA is an area, as Ms. H indicated, that the police work within so they can engage the community. The problem with a PSA area right now, and I know in my active role as a commissioner in Ward 5, I work with the police pretty closely because I have to. And the reality is this. They move them PSAs so quickly. So they go from a PSA area sometimes in a couple weeks or 1 month. So the issue is you don't get time to learn who the officer is. I couldn't become your friend in 2 months or 2 weeks. And
so
you
they
couldn't rotate like that.
They move so frequently. And so what I said when I rolled out the program or introduced the program to the world of Stop and Shake a Hand, which is a spin on the word stop and frisk, that police officers shouldn't be stopping and frisking, but they should be stopping and shaking your hand and befriending you. I said what we need to do to really, in order to get that to work, is to really make sure that we're keeping police officers in their PSA for a longer time period, 1 year or more. And that's what we will do.
Yeah. It takes time.
Yeah, and Stop and Shake a Hand will actually work.
I like
that,
too. It
will erode the culture of no snitching, and it will also erode the culture of, or this feeling of distrust amongst our citizens and our officers and vice versa.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Yeah. All right, now we can go back to our Q&A.
Okay.
My next question is, what are your views on education? How will you continue education and development of our youth?
Yeah. So we all know that and Andrea, once again, you've got some astute questions yourself. I like them. We know that our school system has been listed, I think, as number 45 in the country, and I'm quite frankly, Ms. H, I'm embarrassed to say that, being a district resident, but help is on the way, folks. Help is on the way. I will be a mayor that will focus on our basic our most valuable resources, our kids. I mean, they are the future of America. They are the future of DC. They're the future of us. And if we're not focusing on our kids and we're content with our schools coming in at 45 in the country, but we call ourselves the nation's capital, shame on us. When we're forcing teachers to give out grades and those sorts of things, we can do a lot better than that. And here's where I believe we start doing a lot better than that. We start with revisiting, having an open discussion with all the stakeholders, parents, teachers, residents, students, administrators, to determine whether mayoral control should be divested from the mayor's office and put back into an independent school board that's comprised of educators and then some members, elected members of the public at large, that actually appoints the chancellor or the superintendent. And now I'm not saying I'm going to do this because we're a people first campaign.
Right.
I believe in getting the public input on this first. But I know a number of people, including administrators and teachers, have expressed their concerns to me, and parents as well, that they would like to see an independent school board. I believe that's the only way that we can rid this current system of corruption, the lack of transparency, the lack of just sheer cheating. I mean, when we saw the Blues situation happen in Atlanta, when this happened in Atlanta, people actually were charged by the FBI with racketeering, and they went to jail, and they sit in jail today. Currently, D.C. school systems and the mayor's office has an FBI investigation going on regarding the Blues situation, as well as the inspector general. That's an embarrassment, folks. We don't need that. We don't need that anymore. We don't need it ever again. And the reality is we're going to clean it up. And it's not going to be easy, Andrea, to clean it up, but we've got to start somewhere. We're going to start with revamping the entire system. Bottom-up approach. Yeah.
Okay, my next question would be, prior to wanting to become mayor, what was your previous career?
I previously practiced as a lawyer, civil rights attorney. The majority of my cases were police misconduct cases, civil rights and police misconduct cases. I will say this, folks, I did police misconduct cases well before the real advent of the camera phone was there. So nothing that I had was ever captured on a camera phone. It was always typically a black man against a white police officer. That was the most common scenario, where you would work 3 or 4 years on a federal case, and you didn't make a lot of money from these things, but you'd try the case for 2, 3, 4 weeks in federal court, and you'd lose, and the wind would be taken out of your sails, you know, and you'd get disappointed. But so I tell people, when you do business like that, when you do constitutional or civil rights work, it has to come from here, but much more from here, because the failures would drive you to quit, if nothing else. But the reality is, I am proud of the work that when I was able to represent people in federal court during those civil rights cases. And so that was the majority of my work as a civil rights lawyer.
Are you ready now for
Yes,
the
I'm
next
ready.
question?
Hi, my name is Brittany. I'm a 30-year D.C. resident.
Hi, Brittany.
One of the reasons why my family moved here was for some of the better opportunities that D.C. residents have. So one of my first questions, and it's something that that you already kind of spoke on, is about the affordable housing. So for the D.C. voucher that we do have in place, how will you make sure that all D.C. residents are getting affordable housing?
Okay. Brittany, that's a good question. I think you whispered to Andrea and came up with another zinger. No, I'm teasing you. Those are very good questions. And on a serious note, I think all of you viewing understand and know that that's a serious problem. Our current form we use is the Public Housing Trust Fund, which allocates money to public housing and the subsidy of public housing. That has failed to work simply because of the availability of enough public housing. All of that said, I, short of dissolving the Public Housing Trust Fund, know that there's an easier way to do this, a better way, a more efficient way. Joe Biden said it best. He says, don't tell me what you care about. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you care about. The reality is, don't talk about stuff. Don't say I care about homeless people. Don't say I care about affordable housing. D.C. has a $14.5 billion, yes, that is with a B, billion-dollar budget. And the reality is we can do more in the realm of affordable housing. And my plan is simply this. When we give a tax break to a for-profit developer, what we get in return matters. And we must get more income-based housing in return. We can put educational and vocational strings attached to people that fall within a certain age group. And we give them not a hand out, but a hand up. Who hasn't needed a hand up in life? I don't think there's a single person out there viewing or listening that hasn't needed a hand up in life. And whether you believe you haven't needed that, someone gave you one. It may have been your parent. It may have been an uncle. It may have been a grandparent. But someone gave you a hand up. So when you look at other people and say, well, why don't they bootstrap it? Well, sometimes people need a little help. And this is a government that should and will, in D.C., help people that need affordable housing. Because my thing is this. We spend more money trying to manage the crises of housing and homelessness than it would take to actually end it. I tell folks, you're going to help people one way or another. because either they're going to become burdensome on the medical system, or, crime is going to rise. One way or another, you're going to help people. You can do it in a dignified fashion, or you can do it in the respectable American fashion of truly helping people. And the way we're going to do it is by not only increasing dollars in the Public Housing Trust Fund, but also getting more income-based housing when we do these tax breaks to these for-profit developers. They're going to have to give a little bit more and make a little bit less. But they're giving a little bit more will make it better for the vast majority of people, I'm confident.
Okay, if you don't become mayor, what will you continue to do for DC residents?
Oh, you don't say. Well, I believe I'll become mayor, Brittany, but that is a very good question. I have many years prior to this continued to work in civil rights, doing civil rights work for DC residents. I've volunteered lots of hours, an admirable, in my opinion, amount of hours at many organizations for food hunger, child hunger, homelessness. I currently sit on the board of the National Ivy Foundation for the Homeless. I'm president of the board there. They're on Skid Row in Los Angeles, California. I sit on a number of other boards. I will continue to do that work. Again, as I said earlier, Brittany, this is heart business, and your heart doesn't really change. So I'm going to continue to follow my heart. I believe I will be mayor, but the reality is this. Even if I'm not in the Wilson building, I'll be mayor. I'll be mayor. You don't need to be mayor to act as mayor and help people. So I believe I can be most effective in the Wilson building, but I'm going to still do what I do. And, if Barack Obama gave up when he failed and lost to Bobby Rush in Chicago, he'd never been president. If he says, the heck with politics, he'd never been president. The reality is, I'll never stop fighting for what's right. I will never stop fighting for what's right.
And that's a great optimistic attitude, and that's how we all should have that attitude, that optimism, where we never give up. Because when you're fighting for a cause and you have a cause, then there's something on the inside of you. The passion becomes greater sometimes than the cause. So that optimism is very important.
Thank you, Miss H.
So I appreciate that. Right now, we're going to go to a station break, and we're going to come right back, Mr. Butler, with some more tough questions for you.
Ms. Hightower. I like the tough ones. I really like the tough ones. Yeah.
Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
So you like smooth jazz? Great. Horn of Plenty, Harvest Harmony from saxophonist Travis Bridges. Smooth jazz and all the sax you'll ever need. Available at travisbridges.com. 786-487-7338. Horn of Plenty from Travis Bridges. All the sax you'll ever need.
welcome back to QETV Live Show with your host, Miss H. For all of you who have just tuned in to VoxWave.com, I have in studio today Mayoral candidate. He's a write-in candidate for November 6th election for Washington, D.C. mayoral candidate, James Butler. Remember, his name will not appear on the voter registration, so you have to write it in. Yes, on November the 6th, get out and vote. And Mr. Butler, tell the audience again, get rid of all the no's and the excuses why they can't vote.
Right.
I don't have ID. I have a pass. I'll be turning 18 on November 5th. Can I still vote? I don't have transportation. You got an answer for all of those excuses.
We do, Ms. H. Thanks for having
so
me
run
again.
through those excuses again and eliminate those excuses.
Folks, there really are no excuses not to vote. I don't care what your past is. If you've had a criminal record, you committed a felony, you can still vote. If you are in jail awaiting trial, you can still vote. If you just got out of jail on November 5th, you can still vote. The reality is there is no excuse not to vote. You must be 18 years of age. You must be a D.C. resident. And you must, if you're registering, you can register the day of voting. And you must have an ID on that day. But if you've registered a few days prior to voting, like 3 or 4 days prior to voting, D.C. is a non-positive ID state, meaning you do not have to disclose or show an ID when you come in to vote. Give your first name, last name, and address. Simply that. Oh, and for you that miss, I got a good one for you. Transportation. Transportation
That's amazing.
is not a conflict or a hurdle any longer. Uber has just announced.
Hooray to Uber.
Hooray to Uber. They've just announced that they are taking people to and from the polls for free on Election Day. Download the app. I don't work for Uber. I don't get any money from Uber or anything like that. But I do know they've announced to the nation that they're going to be doing free rides on Election Day. So there is absolutely no reason to not take a half an hour out of your day and vote. Because, folks, we got to be at the table. You can't eat if you're not at the table.
Right.
And voting gets you at the table.
Yeah, that gives you power.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it is your right to vote.
Absolutely.
And tell them how they can get in touch with you if they want to volunteer and donate.
Absolutely. You can call us literally directly, real live, no voicemail at 202-560-6854. That's 202-560-6854. You can also get on our website at Butler, the word for, F-O-R, mayor.com. That's butler4mayor.com. There are two things that wins elections. That's money and manpower. That's an old expression, money and manpower. So we're getting lots of manpower. People are volunteering every day. We still need you. We've got a whole city to cover. D.C. is a very big city. And folks, we need money too. You can get on the website at butler4mayor.com, hit the yellow donate button at the top, and it takes about 30 seconds, and you can give us some money that way. No more than $2,000 per individual. No amount is too small, though. So help us out. Also, you can Cash App us at $ James Butler for Mayor. So
that was one of the greatest things they could have ever invented was the Cash App.
And the funny thing is I don't use it as much, but I hear everyone really likes it. They really do.
So you can transfer money
like in a
really
nanosecond,
easy,
right?
With that Cash App.
Okay.
So it's really good, and it's no cost.
We're gonna get you to Cash App something right before the show.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. See, we're getting donations already. There
That's
we go.
right. We have a couple of more questions, and if you have a call-in questions, feel free to call in at 240-719-2560, and we will take your questions. That's 240-719-2560. Right now, we're going to hand it over to Brittany. She has another question for you, Mr. Butler.
Okay, thank you again. Yeah. So for my final question, I wanted to know, for people that don't know about Mr. James Butler running for mayor or haven't really created a buzz around what your mission is and what your vision is, why should they vote for you?
Okay, that's a great question again, Brittany. D.C. needs a new mayor, and that's not a reason to vote for me. A reason is that you need to vote for a mayor that will look out for your interests. You need to vote for a mayor that will move this city forward. Not only does my track record of work in civil rights for people show that I've got the ability to move things forward, that I'm a fighter. And at this pivotal time in D.C. history, we absolutely need a fighter. I am child number 6 of 7, born to Sister Grace and Elder Harris Butler. Both of my parents are ministers of the gospel. I grew up in a home that literally we housed homeless people.
Wow.
This was in the days prior to ministers making a lot of money. Can you imagine growing up in a home of 7 kids, and then you have homeless people in your home with you?
Yes.
So it was, but I'll tell you what, there were some great lessons in that, learning how to treat people.
Yes.
And I think so from an early age that I've learned you treat people like you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Extend help to people like you
Well, that's the
want help.
golden rule,
Yeah,
Mr. Butler.
Absolutely. And we all need help at some time in our life. And I believe we need a mayor that's not going to just help rich people and not set on having a city that's a city of rich people. You will have a champion for the underserved and underrepresented in me. Why can I say that? Because my record speaks for itself. I've literally have championed causes, nonprofit causes, philanthropic causes, civil rights causes, constitutional rights causes, the majority of my adult life, unlike this present mayor. And I think that's why those aren't big issues for her. They've been big issues for me all my life, and they will remain big issues for me as your mayor. In addition to that, I believe I possess the requisite level of intellect, but I know that intellect alone won't allow you to run the mayor's office. You need compassion, and you need the passion to do it. I believe that the best leaders in the world will govern with their heart as well as they govern with their mind. And I believe sometimes when you're in a certain time in history, which I believe the district is in right now, you need a leader that really has more heart business than mind business. Because the reality is anyone can sit up there and be a figurehead. D.C. needs a leader right now. D.C. needs a real fighter. Because when I'm knocking on those doors all over the city, it's millennials, it's white, it's black, and it's others that feel that this mayor has left them behind. And they say, we need someone to help us. And I'm confident that the numbers that came out in the primary will be in the past, and that we will get enough numbers if folks come out and vote.
You know what, just speaking of, I often hear this, and I want to throw this question at you. What would be like your wish list for Washington, D.C.?
Great. That's a good question again. You see, there you go again. No, okay,
because
great.
I just hear a lot of things, and we also want to send a message too that I love Washington, D.C., even though I live in the state of Maryland, but it's here in the metropolitan area that I enjoy driving into Washington, D.C. I enjoy coming in on the metro into Washington, D.C. I enjoy the sights, the sound, the people, the food, the culture, the diversity. So I don't want people to think that D.C. is just bad. Right. So I want to find out from you, what are some of the wish lists that you would like to improve on, but what are some of the things that you do like that you would like to continue to enhance in the city to give it some fairness and give it some diversity? Because I don't want anyone viewing thinking, wow, what happened to D.C.? I haven't been there 10 years. It's been 10 years. Has it gone down that bad? Yes and no. There's the good, the bad, the ugly, but it's still the heart of D.C. is the seat of government.
Right.
And we have a new 45 in place that have kind of some of the things that has gone on has torn up the country, period. Yeah. But being as the seat of government, what are some of the things on your wish list? I know affordable housing is at the top.
Yeah, it
because
certainly
we
is.
Want people to live comfortably.
We want people to be able to live in the city. My wish list would be this. I would like to see no more homeless. I believe we can have 0 homeless people on the street. I believe we can hire them to build out the numerous vacant DC properties. We can give them a hand up and not a hand out, hire them to build out places where other people that experience temporary homelessness can live. My wish list would be that there be 0 homeless people. I have a vision that there will be no more homeless people in DC 8 years from now. That's my goal. My goal is where little girls aren't killed on the street anymore.
Yes.
And we've had obviously quite a few deaths in the city, and that bothers me a lot.
Oh yeah,
those are the things that keep me awake at night.
I see you getting a little passionate, and that's what we need in life too. Not only to have a passion to be the people's mayor, but also have passion for the people as well. The other thing was too the homelessness. Every city faces homelessness, and to be honest, there's no excuse in America, period, for homelessness, and definitely not in the District of Columbia. Now, I do know they have a program called Veterans Now. Right. How is that program being ran now? What would you do with that Veterans Now program?
Enlighten me a little bit on the program. I'm familiar with our VA office.
It's for the veterans, the homelessness. Supposedly, they have put the numbers down from 2013, where it was over 1,800 homeless veterans. But because of the Veterans Now program, they have less than 300 people, veterans that are homeless now. So the numbers are coming down.
That's great news.
So the Veteran Now program seemed to be working. We don't know unless the veterans get in touch with us and really let us see what's going on. But from the statistics that they put online, they are saying that is working. Now, I'm not sure if you're not a veteran how the homelessness is working, but we do know there's still homelessness in the area, because you can see it when you go into D.C. You see people that are still homeless. And sometimes it's by choice. So we're not talking about
if there's a mental health issue that prevents them from it.
So, but I'm glad to hear that that's on your wish list.
Absolutely, it is.
And that you're concerned about the children, their safety on the street.
Those are big things. I mean, there's certain things that you don't expect to happen in the world.
Of course.
And that is to lose a young child.
Yes.
Another thing you don't expect to happen is that child to grow up around wholesale violence. When you see whether that child is shot his or herself, and you witness someone getting shot or someone dying at the hands of a gun, you're never the same in life. I know you were never the same. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but I lived enough to know that if you've got trauma in your life and you see it from a very young age, you'll never be the same. And I think little kids need to grow up with the opportunity to have a fair shake.
Yes.
To not have to worry about having PTSD by the time they're 10 or 11 or 12.
Yes, because this is not the Middle East.
It isn't. But I will tell you this, it's unfortunate, certain parts of the city, violence has been at some of those levels, I believe. And I don't mean to say this to scare people, but people that live in those areas know it feels like they're in, different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. And they're upset about it. They're scared about it. Some people, one of my Facebook friends who I actually met on the street on Minnesota Avenue the other day, I saw her put on Facebook. She says, Facebook friends, where should I go? Should I go to Georgia? Should I go to, but it's sad that you have to have violence at such a level that people want to leave. So that would definitely be something, that would be my wish list. Mm-hmm. And I think we can move in that direction. I articulated my public safety plan early on, and I really believe that if I'm given the chance to be mayor, we can put that in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before we leave, we just want to remind the viewers again how to get in touch with you, Mr. Butler. If you could share with them your social media platform and the phone number to how to contact you.
Great. So on our website, which is Butler, the word for, F-O-R, mayor.com, that's butler4mayor.com, you can hit any of the social media tabs at the top, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and immediately join us. You can send us a request, obviously on Facebook, and then automatically follow us on Instagram. So also, you can call us directly at 202-560-6854. That's 202-560-6854. And I just want to say, I thank you for your time, all viewers, all listeners, to our studio audience, and I'm asking you for a chance. I just simply want you to give me a chance to be a very good mayor for you.
And when is that big day again?
November 6th.
November
How could you
6th.
forget it? Free rides. I'm going to be riding around in Uber all day long.
And also, Mr. Butler, what will you be doing on that day? What is it like?
So there are 143 polling stations in D.C., and I know this because of the primary. I will be in a car with someone driving me around to all 143.
So you have to make your rounds to each one of them.
Absolutely. I don't have to, but I will. There are certain major ones that I'll spend a little more time at, greeting voters, greeting residents, than others. But 143, I'm going to try to get
So
around
which
to
ones
the
you think you're going to hit so your viewers know where to go if they want to see you on that day?
There's probably a good chance I'm going to be at Precinct 66.
And what ward is that in?
Which is in Ward 5, my home ward.
Oh, definitely.
So you've got to pay attention to your home ward, of course, and the city at large, of course. But in my home ward, I will likely be at 66 for a substantial part of the day. That's UDC. Right in the Brookland area,
Okay.
Bernie Backus, right? Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, I appreciate that. So I say I shouldn't just tell you precincts because those become kind of hard to determine. But so hope to see you there. Reach out to us though, because I know some of you may have some hesitancy or some concerns prior to Election Day. So. I want to answer your questions, and I'll sit down with you, meet with you, your friends, your family, and answer any questions you might have. So.
Okay. And so you're presently working in Ward 5 now as a commissioner?
I'm a commissioner in Ward 5, and my term ends on December 31st, and 2 days later I hope to be sworn in as mayor.
You got your speech ready?
No, not yet.
We got to get that speech ready so we can have our gala, our party, and really
you'll all
celebrate
be invited.
it.
That's
we'll
for
be
sure.
Invited. And
That's
where will
sure.
that be at?
So we haven't determined that yet.
Okay.
But there are a number of different places. I mean, obviously, inauguration are typically held at DAR Constitutional Hall, but most recently they've been held at the Convention Center.
At the Convention Center.
In one of the salons in the Convention Center.
Oh, okay. So as you heard, that November 6th, no excuses. You have a free ride with Uber. Go online, get all the information about how you should register and download the app to call an Uber driver and be patient with them. Remember, it's a lot of people they will be trying to service.
Exactly.
So you're going to have to call, be polite, be honest. It's not to take you to your favorite Chinese restaurant. This is for you to go and vote, okay? And tip the driver. I mean, I know it's a free ride. If you can, be courteous, because if it was your son or daughter, a husband or wife, because we have female drivers too, be kind and be courteous and be polite, okay? He just shared with you there's no ID required unless you're going to vote and register on the exact same day. Then obviously you need identification for them to verify, to vet you, to make sure you're a DC resident, because we don't want people coming in from out of the county and other cities registering to vote. So again, be polite, be courteous, pull out your ID. If you do not have DC ID, go and take care of that now. Go down to the Department of Motor Vehicle. You should carry your ID because it's actually
so DC is a positive ID. It's against the law not to carry the ID.
Against the law not to carry it. I thought so. I didn't
Yeah.
want to say it unless I had the fact. So you should already have an ID, and if not, go and take care of that. It doesn't matter if you have had a pass, as you just heard him state, that you still can register to vote. Again, on November 6th, vote for write-in candidate James Butler. You have to write it in. So they will even provide the pen for you to write it in. So if you forget your pen or pencil, they have that there for you. And again, November the 6th, and take a friend. If you know someone, you know, reach out to them and say, hey, let's go together. Take a picture, put it on the social media, on Mr. Butler's social media. If you want to donate, go to his webpage. He has set up Cash App where you can go and donate, and even the manpower if you feel like that you're called to want to help him. You know, pass out flyers, tell people, help him out as he run for mayor of the city. So again, thank you for viewing QETV Live Show with your host, Mrs. H. Mr. Butler, thank you so much for joining me today. I
appreciate the invitation.
I
really
appreciate you, and I look forward to November the 6th.
Absolutely.
All right. Love you.
Love you all. Stay well.
Have a great day.
Yeah.